Hey everyone, welcome to the Fortress of Solitude podcast. I'm your host, Sergio Pereira, and I'm joined by Fortress of Solitude editor, Jarrod Saunders. Jarrod, how are you, sir?
I'm good, man. How are you?
I'm doing very, very good. I think we've had some good stuff to cover lately. I mean, it just seems like, like you go through those months. I think especially beginning of the year, we had Cobra Kai, then for a while it was a little bit quiet. Now suddenly it's just been exploding with content. I mean, I know we've been talking about like Mortal Kombat and we've turned into Mortal Kombat fan site, but it's been cool. And I mean, obviously today we are going to be discussing something else that both of us have watched, which is Jupiter's Legacy.
Yeah.
And I mean, look, I got to say, I've been excited for this to be coming for a while because I remember like Mark Millar signed a whole contract with Netflix for the Millarverse and to be producing like exclusive content for them. And I think it's pretty cool because obviously we have all the DC stuff, we have all the Marvel stuff, and they're all on their own respective platforms. I mean, you're not going to see a lot of DC stuff going off of HBO Max nowadays. Obviously, they've got their contracts with the CW, but once that is done, it's all HBO Max and Disney Plus. So it kind of feels like Netflix has been like the forgotten stepchild here at the moment. Yeah. And I'm pretty excited to see because, I mean, obviously, Mark Millar has done a lot of cool stuff. I mean, he did Civil War and he did Kick-Ass and he's collaborated with a lot of cool people. He's quite a well-known name. Yeah. And Jupiter's Legacy is quite an interesting property. So I want to get your thoughts of like, you've watched all 8 episodes, am I correct?
I've watched 7.5.
7.5.
I haven't seen the last bit yet.
Okay, well, you're close enough. But what is your impression generally of the show?
I really dig it. There's something about it that's a little different from the rest of the the comic book stuff that's out there, especially the the TV shows. It just feels like it's more a story about family and family dynamics more than it is a superhero story. It's kind of like that's the forefront of the whole thing, and then the superhero thing is kind of like the background. Like, it's cool, it's there, but the main thing is about, family. It's sort of like the Godfather family sort of thing. I'm not comparing it to the Godfather. It's not like the Godfather. I'm just saying it's like a family sort of thing, like about power and how to handle power and stuff like that.
Yeah, I mean, it does remind me a little bit sometimes of, like as you say, like some of the dramas that you get there with all the family dynamics and, there's always a politics within the family and, people always upset with each other, not speaking to each other. And at the end of the day, all that it takes is them to be put in a room together and, they just need to iron things out. But I tend to agree with you. Like, I think the best part about the show is actually all the moments when it's not about superheroism. Yeah. Like, that's the thing. Because, I mean, I'm going to be like real with you here. I think the special effects on the show are pretty bad in most instances. Like, I've got to say the superhero stuff,
it's like Smallville. It's like the Smallville level special effects, the After Effects stuff. It's like basic computer stuff that, basically anybody could do, sort of thing.
No, that's the thing. Like when they actually have like practical effects, like for example, when they created Black Star, where he's actually got a costume and, that sort of stuff, it looks a lot better. I just think the special effects sometimes, they just did not look great. Like I was looking at, especially I think the first episode, that big fight sequence with all the superheroes. And I was like, man, this is like, I didn't know what was going on. I was like, oof, that was the first moment in the series. I was like, okay,
it's like 5 years behind or something.
Yeah, it's like that
we were used to on TV like 5 years ago.
And that's the thing. I think when the series doesn't focus on like the superheroism, like it's actually much stronger and it's actually really interesting. And that's the thing. I think, a lot of people are going to see the special effects and it's going to be like, woof, it's not that good. But the story is actually that great. And that's what I say. Maybe if you stick around for the story and you understand that it's not always about the superheroics, it's actually like something pretty decent behind it. But we just got to get that out the way. I think, there's the special effects and the CGI, like, it's typical Netflix budget here, like we've seen it with other shows. I mean, like we've seen some really great shows that Netflix does, but for some reason they're like, special effects, if you can't do it on Microsoft Paint, then that's it. And I just kind of found that like it was let down because I think that's what actually prevents a show from being good, from being great. It's good, but it's not great because of that. And I think that's something which a lot of people are going to watch and be like, really, compared to other stuff out there.
And yet the weird thing is that they have like big locations, they have big name actors, they've got everything else. Like the production is good on everything else except the special effects.
Maybe it's a sort of deal. Like, remember that I think it was a chat that we attended with Jason Blum like a while back, and he explained like the whole Blumhouse sort of mentality that, you know, you can either have like a lot of locations or like lots of special effects or a big name actor, but you can only choose one.
Yeah.
And maybe Netflix offered like two of the three. Like, you know, you can have two of the three here. But yeah, like, I mean, that for me was, I think, the biggest letdown about the show. That it was, the special effects were a little bit gnarly, and even like some of the superhero costumes as well. Like, I just thought they did not translate very well on screen.
Yeah. I agree too.
But as I said, man, the storyline, it's riveting, actually. Like, you're hooked.
Yeah.
I mean, to see like the whole, you know, dynamic between Sheldon and his son and his daughter Chloe, and even his wife, you know, like, they kind of tells him, you know, when he's talking to her and she doesn't respond, and there's one moment where he says to her, like, you know, are you listening to me? And she's like, oh, what's the point? You know, you're already like talking to yourself, basically. You know, you're hearing the only opinion that you want to hear. And I was like, that was like powerful. I was like, wow, you know, she's really capturing, you know, like sort of dynamic of this argument between couples, you know, and that for me was really cool. That was one of the moments I thought was like powerful. And even that conversation he was having with his daughter, like over bagels, and she basically tells him that, you know, he doesn't know how to be anything else besides a superhero. He doesn't know how to be a dad, when he doesn't even recognize like her friend's like real name. You know, he only knows her by her superhero name.
It's funny, earlier when you mentioned Kick-Ass, and this is the same writer based on this, you know, is this set in the same universe? Because it kind of makes sense why the costumes aren't that great then. Because, you know, everybody's a superhero in Kick-Ass sort of a thing. And it feels like it's similar here. And I don't remember Kick-Ass having the best special effects either.
Yeah, look, I mean, Kick-Ass also was like 2010 though, so it's like,
that's also true.
You know, it's like 10 years ago. You know, like, you'd hope things have evolved. It's like kind of watching Mortal Kombat 95 and like, you know, watching it now, and you kind of think, we hope you've learned something like 26 years or whatever. You know? But I'm not sure, actually, to be honest with you. That's a very good question. I don't think so. I mean, I know that we consider it the Millarverse. You know, like that. You know, he's obviously all the stuff Mark Millar's done. But I'm not certain if it is like, you know, if there is a crossover. That, like, to be honest, I'm not clued up there on that aspect, so I'm not entirely sure. But yeah, I mean, look, like I said, I think the powerful moments between the family are really, really strong. The other thing is like, and I know it's something which, I mean, we've discussed like offline before, and I know it's gonna probably drive a couple people mad, is the fact that I don't think there's any likable character on the show. Like, to be honest,
that was your opinion, by the way. That was my opinion.
And I
like some of the characters.
The thing is, I just find them like, you know, a lot of them that just have these sort of characteristics that I can't root for them. Like, that's the thing, you know, like every character, you know, there's a certain amount of, at the same time, I can kind of say you can identify with every character's cause, put it that way, or every character's like point of view, or like you can understand where it comes from. But at the same time, you also think to yourself, you know, like all these people are like, they're jerks, a lot of them, you know. It's like even the way they approach each other and their family, and they kind of keep things from each other, and you
they're kind of like big babies in a way, like they're complaining about silly things that seem less important.
Exactly.
The big superhero stuff.
Exactly. And I kind of think to myself, like, it is sometimes a little bit difficult to kind of look at these characters and say, you know what, wow, this is like really one character that, you know, I want to follow their arc, you know, and I'm really invested in them. And like, because you kind of also like realize the person's a bit of a jerk. Like, you don't really know, are they really the hero? Are they really the villain? At the same time, like I said, it also kind of throws in that whole, you know, like every villain is a hero of their own story. And, you know, like maybe in Jupiter's Legacy, it's more realistic. Because, I mean, let's be honest. I mean, we are all the heroes of our own story, but we're all jerks at the end of the day, at least once a day. In my case, maybe 5. But yeah.
That said, I did feel something for the main character,
Sheldon.
Yes, for some reason, like, I know he goes off on a tangent about like the rules, like you can't break the rules, like these are the rules.
Yeah, the
you
code.
Have to live by this code. Yeah, you can, but there's something about it that I admired, like watching him, and I can see like in scenes where he's thinking about whether or not he's wrong, but he holds firm to this belief that the code is everything, and that if he breaks the code, then he's basically just, as bad as the villains, I suppose. Yeah. And I thought that was very interesting. So even while he's trying to hold his family together and everything, and the son in the first episode killed somebody. That's not a spoiler, right? The son in the first episode killed somebody, and he kind of holds his son accountable for that for the next, for the rest of the season, basically. Yeah. And because it's such a big deal to him that you cannot kill somebody. And I kind of admired that. I liked that. It was different.
Well, mark my words, there's definitely going to be, from Screen Rant or Comic Book Resources, there's definitely going to be an article of like why Jupiter's Legacy's code is everything Batman versus Superman wasn't. One of those, because it's an interesting topic. I mean, we've discussed, like, I think this ad nauseum on like Fortress as well, about Snyder, for example, with his movies, he kind of saw Batman as like, being driven like 20 years in Gotham. He's seen, his partners die, and you've seen the town deteriorate, and like, will he kill now? Does he break his code? Like, and everybody's obviously discussing, Batman's code. I don't kill. I don't like guns. I don't use it. And it's kind of very similar here. It's very interesting. But I also think what's done really well is like, the counter argument. And I think in a way, it's also a bit of a metaphor for like, the whole like guns debate in America, people that are pro guns and people that are against guns, because you hear like from both sides, like the arguments, like people are saying, no, superheroes shouldn't kill and superheroes should not interfere in politics, because if they do that, they can control things, and you are superior, and you basically are deciding who lives and who dies, and it's a moral sort of, it's about morality. But at the same time, there's a counter argument that if you have all this power, do you not have a responsibility to interfere when people like need you? Do you not have the power to interfere like in wars and, to actually stop corrupt politicians and to make the world a better place? So it's very interesting, the sort of debate that like runs throughout the season. And I know that it's like a lot of people are going to be, vying one way and the other, and a lot of people might actually be in the middle, like seeing both points of views. Yeah. But it's kind of interesting because, like I said, Sheldon, he's got this very strong, moral compass here that like, this is who I am, and, this is what we don't do, and this is what we always do. But at the same time, it's very self-righteous how he doesn't want to deviate from it at all. Like he just says, like, this is it. This is the only way. And you can appreciate it. You can say, fair enough, he's stubborn in his ways, and he's determined. He's got a moral compass. At the same time, it's like, everyone else around him is like, listen, your ideas are outdated, out of fashion. So I think it's an interesting debate to be had there. I think that's something that's going to come out of the show that a lot of people are going to be discussing online.
Yeah. Look, they also explain why he feels the way he does about certain things. I mean, the story in the show there's kind of more than one story. Like there's how he became a superhero. Yeah. And then there's the story of how he's dealing with being a superhero after all these years. And they kind of run parallel next to each other. And so you kind of see why he holds this code thing is such a big deal to him. Which, like I said, I really liked. I liked the fact that, that he can still be a superhero despite what the world is going through.
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, look, I think when you meet him initially, like in the first episode, you don't really like see, you don't understand sort of the backstory. So you kind of think, this guy's just self-righteous, he's just being, he's being a dick to his kids and his family. But then after a while, you start to understand, okay, he's gone through something. I mean, I'm not going to delve into the spoilers here. And you start understanding. But, you start understanding like why it does. And even his brother, like Walter, you start to see like how their dynamic plays into what I would say, their differing worldviews, their difference of opinion. And it's kind of interesting. It's very cool. But, like I just think this code is going to be something that's going to come out of the show. I think more people are going to be discussing the whole crux of it. Like, is this right? Is this wrong? Versus, like perhaps other aspects of the series. I think this is going to be the central point. I think, once everybody watches the show, like articles are going to be everywhere. We're going to be called names if you like associate with one view or the other. Twitter's going to be on fire. So it's going to be amazing, actually. If you enjoy watching, social media fights, it's going to be great. But I'm just, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, actually, and this sounds like a very bad comparison, but somehow it kind of reminds me of Power Rangers in a way. Like the team itself, like how they do things. Like this one has this power to control people's minds, and that one has strength, and that one has, I don't know. It's got this Power Rangers sort of a thing to it.
I think maybe you're just thinking because of the costumes that they look like the Power Rangers.
That too.
I actually see it more like there's aspects of the characters, like, I think, to be honest with you, I think it's a bit of a pastiche of like a lot of superheroes out there. Like, I mean, obviously you can look at Sheldon, it's like he's got a lot of Superman in him, and you look at, like his son is like Superboy, and you can see like even a lot of the characters, they're basically inspired. I mean, there's one guy that runs really fast like the Flash. I mean, so you can see aspects of other characters here, and I think that's maybe where Mark Millar is like really clever in terms of what he's done with his writing all the time, because he can almost make a parody out of something, but he addresses something else.
That's a good point that you brought up. It feels like a parody of other superheroes.
But it's not a parody though. That's the funny thing. It feels like a parody because you associate it. Yeah, you like see it, but then you realize, oh wait, there's more. It kind of reminds me a little bit, to be honest with you, and I think it's because I watched both at the same time. There were certain aspects of like Invincible as well that I've been watching.
I was going to say that. Yeah.
Because Invincible is also the same thing. It's like, you got Omni-Man, who's basically, the Superman of this world, and he's like training his son and, to be powerful and discovering his powers, and then like that sort of thing. And then like they start clashing, there's a family sort of clash there as well. Obviously, this one is different. It's not the same story. But I just found that there was a lot of similarities there. And it's interesting because, to be honest with you, like I think we've reached that point now where we have enough superhero properties that are out there that are dealing with the aspect of superheroism. You like, you look at Superman and Lois, and you look at, Titans, you look at whatever like's going on now, Falcon and the Winter Soldier. It's a lot of aspects, a lot of stuff that we're familiar with, but it's never really about just the people behind it, where the people are the focus. And then, the capes are behind them. The capes are secondary. I think it's like now we've got a show that's it's pretty much that. And I'm going to be interested to see how people, deal with it, because I think there's going to be some superhero fans who'll be like, oh man, there's not enough superheroics here. Like where are the fights? Where are the cool scenes? That sort of thing. And then going to be other people. Yeah.
Some people might say it's not like Netflix's Daredevil or their earlier Marvel properties, because it's not as dark as that at all. Like it's a lot more like Marvel stuff, like to the stuff that Marvel's making now.
It's interesting you say that, because
do you think it was dark? I mean, there's blood splatter here and there, but none of it is very convincing. Like, it's not the Snyderverse, let's put it that way.
Yeah, look, I think because I know, Millar's style, like in general, like the way he's done, like his previous comic books and a lot of the adaptations, like I've always found his writing to be a little bit tongue-in-cheek. He knows what he's doing. It's like a little bit like The Boys. In the sense that it's a pretty dark subject matter, but the way it's sometimes addressed is like in a way that isn't too gruesome or too over the top or too dark. Let's put it that way.
And it's bright. Like the color palettes are
the color palettes are definitely bright. But I do think there are elements of it that it does go into darker territories. Like I think some of the discussions, some of the the aspects of drugs as well that are covered on the show, there are certain aspects are pretty dark. But I do get what you're saying, because especially I think like the newer, like I look at like a Marvel show like Falcon and the Winter Soldier. That is a good comparison, I say that, because there are certain themes that you can kind of look at and say, oh, okay, it's similar in a way. I don't want to say it's exactly the same. I'd say it's like a mashup of Falcon and the Winter Soldier and Invincible. Like that's what I would say.
Yes, that's a good comparison.
But yeah, I do get what you're saying. It is different from like a lot of the other Netflix stuff that's out there. And I'm super interested to see what the reception is going to be towards the show, because I mean, we know that the embargo only lifts on the day of release. So look, it's one of two things there all the time. Like we always saying, I mean, this episode is going to go live there. It's always the show has got a lot of spoilers, a lot of things that they don't want to be discussed and get out beforehand, or B, they don't have faith in the show and they think that people are going to roast it. So they're trying to get as many people to watch it on the first day. Because to be honest with you, I don't really understand, like even like the embargo that was on the show. It was like, you know, I don't understand why, because like I'm like, okay, special effects are pretty dodgy, but the story is pretty decent.
Yeah, I agree.
So yeah, but I don't know.
Yeah, maybe Netflix just doesn't want to take a risk on it. You know? I think they're hoping for people to just, you know, kind of stumble upon it while they're scrolling through the, you know, the 100 news shows that they're adding weekly.
Yeah, look, I mean, it's also possible. I mean, to be fair, I think, you know, Shadow and Bone as well, I think the embargo lifted like a day before it was live, or on the day or something, if I'm mistaken. And I mean, that show has been received positively everywhere. I mean, everyone's loving that show. And it's one of the top.
But that show had some decent VFX.
Yeah, no, it did. I mean,
their budget was much better.
Yeah, look, I think that they use their budget cleverly there in terms of powers as well, like how they do this stuff. I think in terms of Jupiter's Legacy, you know, it just has too many powers. And it kind of reminds me sometimes of, you know, like you look at the Flash TV series and there'll be an episode where they'll have Grodd or King Shark or somebody in it. And then, like, you know, it'll be amazing special effects. Wow, this is great. And then the next one, it looks like, you know, you're playing a Nintendo game, you know, like, because it's just like they blew all their budget on that, like just those two characters. And I think that, you know, in Jupiter's Legacy, they were a little bit smart in the sense that they didn't be like, okay, just this massive first scene, you know, we are going to invest all our money into it. They kind of like, they split it up the budget a little bit for special effects. And, you know, like everybody got a little bit. And look, like I said, the first episode, that probably for me was the worst bit of special effects that I saw, which kind of sucks because I think a lot of people will judge the series based on that. Yeah,
they should have spent way more money on the first episode and, you know, you kind of forgive the rest. Yeah, because you'll be so invested by the...
Exactly. But even like I think it's the final episode, if I'm mistaken. I'm not going to give you any spoilers, but there's a really cool scene where there's some, you know, superheroism taking place. And even throughout this, you know, the show, there's a couple of them like, hey, the visual effects are not bad. You know, they're actually pretty decent. But the first one was like, oh, man, like the green screen was tough to watch. And then the panels, as like you said, was like, oof, you're like, man, this does not look cool. Like, I know what they're trying to do. They're trying to replicate, you know, comic book panel there, but it just did not look good.
Yeah. I mean,
but yeah, like we're saying, if you just watch that scene, you're like, okay, this is junk, this is terrible. Like it is bad. We cannot defend it. There's absolutely no way we can say that is great. But big but, you need to watch the rest of the show because the rest of it actually is pretty decent, and the effects are not as bad as that.
Yeah, and the acting is very, very good. Like everybody gives a really good performance.
Yeah, I mean, I love the cast was incredible here. I think we have some really, I mean, the fact that you got Ben Daniels here, Josh Duhamel. I mean, you got some really big names on the show, and I think that's the thing. It's like it's a really good, well cast show. I mean, even some of the up and coming like stars, like, you know, some of the younger people on the show, they're really good. And I thought that was the thing. Like the acting is really decent. It doesn't feel like you're saying, like one of those cheaper Netflix series where, you know, they get actors that are out of work.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, I'm down with it.
Yeah.
But overall, what would you say? Like, if now somebody to say to you, right, should I watch Jupiter's Legacy? Is it 2 thumbs up, or 1 thumbs up, 1.5?
You know, that's a tricky question because I found myself also like doing stuff while watching it. You know, it's that sort of thing where you can put it on in the background and it's not gonna. You can pick it up if you miss something. You can pick up what's happened, you know, along the way. And so I will say, yes, it's good. So maybe 1 thumbs up. It's not the greatest thing ever. Netflix has a few other shows, superhero shows, that I find more interesting. But yes, I did dig it.
Yeah, I mean, look, I'm probably in the same boat as you there. I would probably also say 1.25 thumbs, maybe. Like, I think the problem is that, you know, we've been spoiled by a good mixture of, like, you know, special effects and good storylines lately, you know, like, and I think that's the thing. Like, even if you look at something like Falcon and the Winter Soldier, which looks like a Marvel movie, man, it's like, you know, you watch those episodes, it's really well shot, it's really well done, and you're like, whoa, okay. This is the standard. And I think when you look at that and you say to yourself, that's a really good show, you know, in all sides, all aspects. And then you look at this, it's like the storyline is great, but as you say, you know, the costumes sometimes are a little bit, you know, a little bit shoddy, and the
trailer's fantastic though. I must say.
I mean,
I watched the trailer. I was like, I gotta watch this.
Yeah, and I think that's the thing. Like, I think it's worth a watch, definitely. But what I just hope that happens is that if it does get a second season, which I hope it does, because I'd love to see the story get explored further, that they actually invest a little bit more money in it, which I think maybe Netflix will do. Yes. And if they get more money, then they can, just upgrade everything, and then it'll be even better. Because I think the first season is a decent start. It's got a good storyline, wonky special effects sometimes, wonky costume, but you still want to see how it plays out, and you invested in it.
Yeah, it might have been one of those things that was affected by COVID as well. You never know.
When I did that round table, one of the actors said that they weren't affected by it at all. Actually, that they said they had done all their filming before COVID hit, and it was just left for the special effects for the people to be working on it.
So it's those guys too.
Yeah, so maybe working from home, somebody didn't have a good internet connection.
Or they had COVID.
Yeah, I don't know, man. It's shame, man. Shame, man. I don't know what happened there, but I mean, look, I think the special effects team, not to be, we're dunking on them a bit, but we don't know what they were given. I mean, sometimes we know they're make this work, and they're not. You get a team that's not able to do it. I mean, look at what happened with, as we say, the Justice League, where they were given ridiculous timelines. We don't know. So I mean, I don't want to dunk on them too much, because I think that we don't know the circumstances there. But look, I mean, we can't deny the fact that the special effects are not the greatest, and they leave a lot to be desired. But I mean, I still think that it's worth a watch. And I mean, to everybody else out there, if you've seen it, let us know in the comments. Are we high, or or do you agree, or do you hate the show? Whatever. I mean, let us know in the comments. But Jarrod, thanks a lot, man, for joining me. It's been fun. It's been real. And we'll definitely have some other shows to chat about soon. And to everybody else, thanks again. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and obviously share our content. And until next time, cheers.